Hello students, today we are going to study the poem In the Bazaars of Hyderabad by Sarojini Naidu.
First of all, let us have a look at the background of the poem. The poem In the Bazaars of Hyderabad is written by the Indian poetess Sarojini Naidu. To understand the context of writing this poem, you first need to know that Sarojini Naidu was a major political figure in the Indian freedom movement in the first half of the 20th century. She was the president of the Indian National Congress and the first woman governor in India. Okay. The poem was written as a part of the Swadeshi movement. During that freedom movement, the Indians decided to boycott European merchandise. Merchandise means things, okay, European things, and use the Indian products instead. So, students, you can see that the poem is in the form of question and answers, okay? So, the poet is asking the questions to the merchants, okay, and the merchants are answering her questions. So that is how the poet makes the bazaar of Hyderabad visible to us. So let us see what is in the first paragraph of the poem. The poem begins with the poet's question to the merchants about what they are selling. She sees that the goods are displayed nicely to attract the buyers. The merchants reply that they are selling crimson. What is crimson? Crimson means deep red, and silver colored turbans. Purple brocade tunics. Again, brocade is a sort of a fabric. Okay, purple brocade tunics. Tunics is a sort of a kurta. Mirrors with amber frame and daggers with handles made of jade. Jade is a green sort of a stone. Okay. So in the next paragraph, the poet then visits the vendors, the maidens, and the peddlers. Okay. She asks the vendors what they are weighing for sale. The vendors reply that they are weighing saffron, lentil, and rice. Saffron means kesar. Lentil is a sort of a grain, okay? It is a sort of a dal. And rice. The poet then asks the maiden girls what they are grinding. The reply comes that they are grinding sandalwood, henna, and spices. And now the peddlers are asked what they are calling as their trade cry. Now, cry doesn't mean crying here, okay? Cry means what they're shouting to attract their customers. They say that they are selling chessmen and dice made from ivory for the game of chess. Chessmen and dice. So I believe you have seen the board game of chess. So there are some elephants, then horses, then soldiers that you move around in the game. Those are called chessmen. And dice. The dice is the one that you throw. That consists of numbers from 1 to 6. The one you throw. So that is called the dice. And these chessmen and dice are made from ivory. So what is ivory? Ivory means it is made from the teeth of elephants. So have you seen the two teeth that come out from the mouth of elephants? Two big teeth, a bit arc that are, yeah, two teeth that come out from the face of elephants. So those chessmen and dice are made from these teeth. Okay, so they are called ivory. So they are made from ivory for the game of chess. So now the poet goes up to the goldsmiths and asks them what they are making. They are making wristlet, anklet, and ring to adorn their customers. So the goldsmiths are making wristlet. Wristlets are bracelets for your wrist. Anklet are again bracelets for your ankle. And rings to adorn their customers. And bells to be tied to the feet of blue pigeons. So pigeons are already very small birds. So these goldsmiths are making bells to be tied around the feet of blue pigeons. So you can get the idea how fragile and how delicate these uh, bells have to be. Okay, and these bells are as thin and lightweight as the wings of a dragonfly. So the wings of a dragonfly are very lightweight, very thin, very delicate. So the bells that they are making are also equally thin and lightweight as the wings of a dragonfly. They are also making golden girdles for the dancers. They are making golden bells, bells worn around the waist of dancers, and golden sheaths for the king's sword. Okay, in the poem it is given scabbards. Scabbards means covers for the swords. Okay, so in the movies you will see that the fighters pull out their swords from a sort of longish cover sheath, that is called a sheath. It is also called scabbards. So they are also making golden scabbards sheaths for the king's sword. So now you get an idea that these goldsmiths of India can make things ranging from very light, very delicate, very fragile, to things that are very strong, that has to be very strong, uh, very hard, like the king's sword, and things that are to be thin and lightweight, like the bells of to be tied to a blue pigeons. Okay, so they are very uh, what do you call it? They are very talented. They can make things of a wide variety. Okay. So now the poet asks the fruit sellers what fruit they are selling. They answer that there are citron, pomegranate and plum. Citron is a kind of citrus fruit, like a big orange. Okay. Pomegranate and plum. Next, the poet asks the musicians what instruments they are playing. They reply that they are playing on sitar, sarangi, and drum. So you can see that sitar, sarangi, and drum, all these instruments originated in India. There is no mention of any foreign instrument. Okay. After that, poet goes on to the magicians and asks them what they are chanting. The reply comes that they are chanting magical spells that will work for years to come. So these magicians are chanting magical spells. So they are chanting magical spells that will work for years to come, that will not fade in time, and they will hold true. They will work for ages and ages. In the poem, it is said eons. Eons means years. Okay, they will work for years and years. They will not fade in time. They will not stop working. They will hold true forever. Okay, so this also shows the never ending magical quality of the bazaars of India. Okay, so now in the last stanza of the poem, you can see that the poet is asking the flower girls what they are weaving with the azure and red tassels. Azure is a deep blue color, red tassels and red tassels. Tassels are strands of flower. The flower girls say that they are making garlands for the bridegroom and to adorn his bed for the wedding night. So, in a wedding, you will see that the bride and the groom are made to wear garlands. Okay, flower garlands. So, this flower girl is making those garlands and to adorn his bed for the wedding night. You will also see that the bed is decorated with flowers. No, so she is also making these flowers. Okay. They are also making sheets of newly plucked white flowers to be used on the dead man's grave for fragrance. So she is also making sheets of newly plucked flowers, very freshly plucked flowers, to be used on the dead man's grave, to be put on the dead man's grave for fragrance, to fragrance his sleep. Okay. So you will see that the poet very cleverly places life and death side by side in this stanza. Okay. So, in conclusion, it can be said that Sarojini Naidu very vividly represents an Indian market to give us a sense of the rich Indian heritage and to show how colorful and vibrant the markets of India can be. This poem was her protest against the European products and an appreciation of our own goods. According to her, everything necessary for our livelihood, starting from basic groceries to entertainment, can be found in the bazaars of India. Although she mentions Hyderabad, she is actually representing the entire Indian bazaars. Okay, therefore, there is no need to depend on foreign countries for our daily requirements. Thank you.